Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you a few sound design tricks that you can do with the Minilogue XD. They'll be pretty simple, but just complicated enough to show you what the XD can do, as opposed to a few other, as opposed to other synths out there. We're going to start with your basic 1990s trance lead sound, because that's a very easy one to do, and the Minilogue does it really well. So first, we'll just bring it to an initial patch, and by default, oscillator 1, I'll bring that up, is set to a sawtooth at that octave. And oscillator 2 is also set to a sawtooth at the same octave. We want to keep that just the way it is, bring that up. And then we want to go to the multi-engine, the digital oscillator, flip the switch to the middle option, and you'll have a bunch of default preloaded options here. And we're going to bring it to saw 1. And we'll bring that in. And I have the sawtooth or the multi-engine set to an octave lower. If you go to Program Edit and click this button, you'll see it's set to 8. I think by default it's set to 16, and 8 I believe is this same octave here. So you can either set these two up higher and now it's down an octave, or you can set this down to 4. Or, sorry, going backwards. Set it to 16. Or you can just keep it at 8 and keep it all the same. Since we're doing a lead, I think we'll just keep it all the same right now. But you can change that to your taste. Exit that. So you want them all at max volume. Your amp envelope will have no attack, or completely short attack, full decay, full sustain, and no release. That's the... Hold it down as long as you want and it immediately stops and you pick it up. And we're going to go to the voice mode over here. Go down to unison mode. We're going to go to the voice mode depth and detune it by about 15 cents. Again, that's to your taste, but 15 gives you a nice wide sound without blowing it out to crazy sound distortion. And now the sawtooth here, the multi-engine, you want to bring the shape up to somewhere around 9 o'clock, a little less than 9 o'clock. What this is doing is basically like an FM or a folding. It's folding the wave back onto itself so it produces more harmonics and just makes it a little bit brighter. Anywhere past 9 o'clock and it's going to be really distorted. So 9 o'clock and lower, you get a nice bright sawtooth. And then you want to go to your effects, to the mod effect, select the chorus. And the default chorus is the one you want for this particular effect because it's stereo chorus, but you can press Shift and select, and you'll see a bunch of different choruses that you can choose. But we're going to stick with the stereo, put the time about 50%, and put the depth about 50%. And that is your classic 1990s trance. And of course, that sound came from the Roland Jupiter, which had its super sawtooth wave that you could pick, and the old trance musicians used to use that synth, and that's kind of where that sound was born. And these settings kind of recreate it perfectly. And for this, you can set the filter to whatever you want, and everything else is to your taste. But that's the basic trance lead for you on the Minilogue XD. All right, next up, I'll show you how to make a simple brass sound. Now, this sound you can do with any synth. I just want to show you how it's done for those of you who don't know how to make that classic brassy sound. So we'll start again. We're on an initial patch. We're going to keep it on the sawtooth, and we'll bring up oscillator 1. And the envelope will have no attack, full decay, full sustain, and just a touch of release. And then to get the brassy sound, you gotta mess with the envelope generator here. We'll bring the attack up to 9, the decay up to 9, and the intensity of the envelope to somewhere around 35% should do it. Then you want to bring the filter down to about halfway. Okay, maybe that's not quite enough. And there you go. And you can just adjust the filter to your liking, and that's a classic brass sound for you. Now I'll show you a basic like chiptune sound. it'll sound a lot like one of the waveforms from an old Sega Genesis. We'll go to initial patch, bring in both VCO 1 and 2 and the multi, but not yet. I want to show you here. You put it on the square wave, VCO 1, put the shape up to around 1 o'clock, and you get a nice thin, pulse. Now the second oscillator, put that on the sawtooth, and you'll want to set the shape to about noon and bring that in, and you have a really nice square saw shape going on here. When you change the shape of the sawtooth, it makes it a little more square, and then you have the pulse, which is obviously very square. And if you look at the waveforms of an old Sega Genesis chip under an oscilloscope, you'll see one of the waveforms looks exactly like that. So the wave shaping capabilities makes it like really good for chip tunes. Then you want to come down to your multi-engine here, make sure it's on the first setting, the low setting, that's your noise oscillator. Set it all the way to the last one, which is decimator. And then you want to set the shape all the way up to 100%. Then bring it in maybe, I don't know, 7 to 9 o'clock, something like that. And then I like to play this in mono mode. You just go down to chord, make sure the voice depth is all the way to the left, all the way off, and you'll be in mono mode. Yeah, you get the idea. So that's a basic chiptune sound. Obviously no effects on that, like maybe a little reverb, but chiptunes is as basic gets. And this synth is very nice. There are a few other waveforms you can get that you can just mess with the shape as much as you want to and look at the oscilloscope to make sure you like get it just right, and you can pretty much copy all of the old chipsets. It's pretty cool. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to make a simple dub stab, which is one of my favorite things to do on a synthesizer. The Minilogue has a nice organ sounding square wave that you can get here. So we're on an initial patch. We'll bring in the first two oscillators, keep them on sawtooth waves, and we'll bring in the multi-oscillator, crank them all the way up, set the multi to the middle option, and we're going to go to square 1 and put the shape a little over 9 o'clock. And that square here, if you want to hear what that square sounds like, it's kind of like a whistly sound, but when we change the envelope here, it'll give it a nice organ sound. And we also want to set the multi-oscillator to 16, so it's 1 octave lower. And now the envelope, the amp envelope, will have no sustain, no release, no attack, and a little bit of decay. To your taste, but you want it to be pretty short. Set the envelope to cutoff, the intensity up maybe, I don't know, 25% for the moment, see how that goes. No attack, and a little bit of decay. Bring the filter down to maybe halfway, bring the resonance up a bit. Sounds pretty good. Now, the reason the decay is up a little, if you have the decay all the way down, has a really snappy envelope. And you might like that. Makes it sound like a little bit like a Casio toy. But giving it a little decay makes it a little smoother and brighter. And then in the effects section, on the reverb, the plate reverb works particularly well, around a little under 3 seconds, a depth of about half. Maybe that's too much, but you know, whatever. And some delay. I like the ping pong delay. So that's a really nice dub stab for you, and that square wave really makes a difference. So the next patch, You can do this on any synth. This isn't unique to the Minilogue, but I just wanted to share it because it's a very neat trick, and beginner sound designers might be confused on how to get this sound because it's not very intuitive. It's a stab that goes into a swell without having to actually change the filter. Now, we'll just go to an initial patch. We've only got the one oscillator on a sawtooth. And so we can bring the envelope generator. It's all about the envelope. Set it to cutoff and put the attack and the decay around 11 o'clock and the intensity around 9 o'clock. And you see how it, because the intensity is reversed, you're getting rid of the filter, and the filter's on maximum here. The attack isn't bringing the filter in, it's taking the filter away. That's what's great about the bipolar intensity knob here, is in the negative values. And it's important that you have the attack and the decay kind of matched. You can have the decay longer, but I guess it really doesn't matter. But that's how you can do a nice stab that goes into a swell without having to manually change the filter. You can do it even more. So that's a lot of fun. That's a neat trick that a lot of sound designers use. And it can be a little confusing because you're using negative values, but you're getting a really bright filter at the beginning. One other quick thing I want to show you about the multi-engine. If you flip up to the user engine, it actually comes loaded with one for you already. Then, you know, you have I think 15 or 16 other slots to upload your own, but Korg gives you one. And if you click the edit mode and then press this button here, while the user section is selected, you have a special menu here. And you've got a lot of different waveforms. Let's see, there are 46 of them. And that's pretty cool. And you can kind of bring in different subwaves, and it's sort of like having 3 oscillators together. It's pretty interesting, and that really widens the capabilities of the synth quite a bit. For this last one, I want to show you a really nice, it's like a deep, thick keys sound. And we'll be using, again, an initial patch, bring in both VCOs, keep them both on sawtooth, put the first sawtooth shaper all the way to 100%, keep the second sawtooth where it is, all the way to the left, so it's a normal sawtooth. Detune one of them by just a few cents, you know, between 3 and 10 cents. Set the resonance all the way to 0 or maybe up to 9 o'clock. You don't want much resonance on the filter. Put the filter somewhere a little after noon. The envelope, set it to cutoff. The attack to 0. The decay to about 10-ish. The intensity to about 20%. The amp envelope, you have attack 0 and decay and sustain all the way up. Release 0. Or you could have the release up a little bit so it sounds like a little more resonant. And there you have it. There you have a nice thick, it's nice and punchy, and you can hold it out. It's got a nice attack. It's got a nice deep bass to it because of the first wave shaper up here. That sort of square saw adds nice low-end harmonics, and that's just one of my favorite tricks with this synth is getting that square saw, adding those bass harmonics. It's a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed these quick sound design tutorials. I'll have a few more of these in the future, but I just wanted to show off a little bit of what the XD can do. Thanks for watching.